My name is Jaylan Harvey. I am just finishing business fundamentals before moving on into other aspects in Fanshawe College for education-wise. And I am director for School of Business on Fanshawe Student Union.
All right. Why did you decide to run?
I decided to run because I feel that not enough students are getting actually heard. I feel the college means well, and they do well, but there are just some criteria on which only other students who can relate to students can really get in there and make things known and get changes across. And so I'm also always about helping people in community engagement and stuff. So being on student council seemed like a good idea, as well as I did it in high school. I did a presidency and a senior class rep there, so I meant I have the experience for that, and I felt I marketed myself well. So it all ended up successful either way, and hoping to make some cool changes.
Yeah. All right. What is a director responsible for? So is yours different? Because I heard you say you're like sort of on the business
Yeah.
side.
So as they what they do, and they have their own reason for doing this, but we all run for a director position, and each director gets essentially we all represent Fanshawe students, right, throughout all the campuses. But to help divvy up the work and help make sure concerns are heard and needs are met and student life is enhanced correctly, we divvy up the schools between the 8 directors, so that way these directors are the liaison between different schools. So like for the School of Business, which is one of Fanshawe's largest schools, probably around roughly 8,000 students, let's just assume, close enough. I deal with that, and I go to the School of Business myself, so I mean it seems logical. You've got other students who are in technology and stuff, so I know one of the directors, Natasha Reese, she is in public safety courses and PSI, and so she's also her and Tam Veer are part of public safety courses, nursing, things like that. So they represent the students there, listen to their concerns, help them out, meet with those class reps. Essentially, what we're supposed to do is provide an oversight, not an oversight so much, but just to kind of guide the student council and the president to make successful and appropriate decisions for students in the college when it comes to student life and the things that the FSU provides, and just making sure overall that student needs are met.
All right. What are your ideas or platforms that you have in mind for as an FSU director?
So I know there was some spelling errors, I'll admit, on my actual campaign posters, which I was correct. They received a lot of positive reviews. I was told, your border is simple. You're the only one who had campaign points and ideas at all. Whether some people said whether they thought they were achievable or not. It's the fact that I took the time to really put a lot into my marketing process and how I was going to market myself. And then it really came down from there to my interpersonal communication skills and how I can connect with students one-on-one in groups. My changes I'd like to see are, enhancements to the student plan, the flex plan, and what you can use your student card on. I'd like to see that come off of campus. That way you can take it. So downtown kids per se can even take it to the Starbucks on the corner or, the pizza store around the corner or whatever. That way it provides more food options. I actually already have certain retailers like Food Basics down the street who already offer us a 10% discount but are actually open to the idea of being on the flex plan and being there, so that students who do choose to put money on their student planner or are on a meal plan are only restricted to the college can use that same meal plan to go do grocery shopping and put real groceries in their cupboards and fridges, real groceries that they can use in their community kitchens in the residences and stuff, or at home to cook healthy meals for themselves instead of ordering out all the time or depending on cafeteria food or Subway or Pizza or whatever the case may be. I think it's necessary that students are able to use whatever money it is their money essentially, and they deserve to have multiple access to different avenues of food. Especially say if you're on res and you have some like hardcore gluten restrictions. I'm not sure what the college does around gluten options, but it may be variably less than what you have for vegetarian or regular diet, right? I'm not sure what we have for halal options. I'm not sure we have any halal options, right? That could be incorrect. And maybe someone who only lives on a halal diet but yet lives on residence and is restricted to a meal plan, that makes it next to impossible for them. But if they could use that meal plan to go down the street to the grocery store and buy their own halal meats and products and stuff to make their dinners, that would do students wonders for independence, well-being, growth, merging into adulthood. What are you going to do when you come into college after 3 years not knowing how to cook for yourself? How does that work? It doesn't work, right? So that's one of my points, and I know it's realistic because even Fleming College in Peterborough, Ontario, where I was raised for a good 9-10 years of my life, does it. Universities all across Ontario do it, but some colleges like Fleming College are doing it as well. Their students have access to like 3-4 different grocery stores locally in that city that they can use their student card at. They can also go to the Whistle Stop, one of Canada's largest poutine bars, with their student card. Like, they can go to diners and stuff. Why can't we do that, right? Fanshawe, unfortunately, is the only school that doesn't like refund. Well, I'm not sure it's the only one, but one of the few that doesn't refund you your leftover monies at the end of a term or something. You know, they don't roll over. There's no way to get that stuff back. There's, you know, and I've seen kids walk away from $1,000, and you have to think about it. You've put yourself into debt for that money, or that's money you've worked for and put into that yourself, and then you're being told you can't get that back at all. They're not going to refund you, and you're only allowed to spend it, you know, on campus at these limited options. And sorry, like that, and that must not be so frustrating for the average student who doesn't live on residence, but for someone on a meal plan, which meal plans cost anywhere from what, like, I'm going to say $2,000 to $5,000. I think I've heard some students say. That can be very frustrating. I would be very frustrated if my options for 2 to 3 years in college were very limited because of how I could utilize the money, my own money, that I used to come here and pay for an education for. I feel that it's unethical that students should be restricted onto where they can spend their money, especially when it comes to well-being and making sure they're well fed.
Yeah, no, I wasn't even aware of that. That's well, I mean, it is their money and they're having to pay back for it.
That's right, and it's going to benefit the economy as a whole, right? And if it's already a model being used successfully in other institutions, then why not here? And especially other places, like if grocery stores are open to the idea of having a whole other source of income that is otherwise currently non-negotiable for them, and they have access to that, you know, not only are they benefiting from it, but they're benefiting from students who are able to, again, get healthier food options for cheap. Would you rather go buy a Western breakfast sandwich combo or whatever at Western every day for your life for what, $7.50, $8? Or would you rather spend that $8 and make about, you know, with the groceries you could buy, make about 12 of them yourself? I mean, what seems more logical? What seems more long-term and more healthier for you, right? What caters more to the student? And this even applies to students who don't use a meal plan, who don't really utilize their student card for more than having money on it to print. But I'll tell you, I don't have a meal plan, and I always keep about anywhere from $10 to $50 on my student card because it's a safety net. Say if I am having difficulties or anything, it is a safety net that I can use for myself to, yes, feed myself despite limited options, or utilize. Say if I don't have change for a coffee and I don't want to pull out my credit card to make a purchase, but I have the money for a coffee on my student card, done. So it is a safety net that I also urge students to still, despite you know, the some of the implications to it, still utilize and put money onto it. Just make sure that it's not an overabundance of money that you might not be able to clear off in a you know, a logical time period. My other campaign idea was to I know it said on-campus daycare for some of the flyers, but I wanted to actually just get daycare services in general. Like, I want to see either a subsidized rate for students across the city, no matter what, for daycare service, or I want to see a dedicated daycare facilitator that has maybe more than one location, so 2 or 3 locations within the city of London and surrounding area. You know, maybe they could perform a contract with Fanshawe where, you know, they offer a contract where they serve Fanshawe students and faculty first and foremost before community, as London does have a lot of daycare systems, right? So, you know, things like that, or figure out, you know, I just, when it comes to on-campus daycare, there's not enough space. And I mean, the daycare model they had beforehand, it was very well perceived, but again, you can't, from what I heard, the hours were very stiff. I think it was something like literally a 9 to 5. And I mean, I'm in business. You can't run a daycare 9 to 5 and expect that to be successful. That doesn't spell success. Okay, even 20 years ago, it doesn't spell successful. It spells very short-term crash and burn, just for that operating hours alone. Because let's face it, especially back then, a lot of adults were going night school. Night classes in college were popular because people needed to work all day. You know, it was easier for them to throw their kids in school and then throw their kids in an after-school program and daycare / until it was 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock when school's done, and then they go home, have dinner, you know, live it again the next day. That's how I grew up. That's that's how most other kids would grow up if their parents were still attending college or something. So, I mean, 20 years ago, yeah, 9 to 5 still wouldn't work, and it wouldn't work today. So I'm not sure that an on-campus model is actually functionable, especially with the requirements and certain government legislations that would need to be met. You know, it'd be great if we could do it, because that would be an opportunity for our ECE students, our CYW and social work students and stuff like that. But I mean, if we could get either a subsidized rate across the board for students and maybe possibly staff, or a daycare provider that pays attention to both just staff and students on a 9-month basis throughout the year. Meanwhile, you know, even if it's not a subsidized rate, this is a service that you have guaranteed to you because you go to Fanshawe and you're a faculty or a student. And we realize that with all the things you have in life, childcare may be very important. And I feel that childcare is also something blocking a lot of people who could very well be very productive and very good in our society, that just can't come to school and get the knowledge that they need and get that diplomacy that they need to move forward, because they need childcare and it's too much or inaccessible to them. And I think that's important. So that's a long-term issue, and I do plan on rerunning in future elections, whether it's for board of director, I don't know, something else, I don't know. But I do want to see childcare become something that is a big seriousness over the next 2-3 years in Fanshawe. And it's important, because now that we've had our government curb the gap of people not being able to financially meet the needs to come to college, now almost anybody can come to college no matter your financial need. You know, that's great, but now we need to eliminate the barrier of people can't attend college because of children. You know, we're being pressured in an economy to have children, especially at a young age, be successful, have children. Our economy's dying. We're being depopulated, blah, 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 you know, on this country at least, you know, and they're encouraging that. But at the same time, we can't afford that, or it's not logical at the time, right? So, and then people who are stuck with children, but, you know, aren't there with the system exactly because they don't have the training or the certification that they need. They're at a loss, they're at an impasse, and they have to not only struggle to make ends meet for themselves and their children in a job that they are probably too overqualified to be at for however indeterminate amount of time that is, but you know, they belong somewhere else and they just can't get there. So I believe we need to find a way to clear that barrier, even if it's a daycare service that has, like, you know, 2-3 locations, one in the east end of London, one in the southwest end of London, and one in the north end or something, or one just outside of London, like in St. Thomas, and it was all like one provider, same owner, whatever, and we had a contract with them for, you know, September to April or whatever, 9 months of the school year kind of thing. 8 months or however long it is, you know, you service students at such and such a rate, you know, figure things out. And, you know, I'm going to say it, for a daycare provider who would have 2 to 3 locations and be able to maybe take care of 500 children tops between all of them, if they have the space for that. And maybe they don't, maybe some of them only have space for 30 children each, we don't know. But the fact that you'll have guaranteed applicants and guaranteed, I'm losing my mind for the word, but customers per se, because you're dealing with a college, you're dealing with 5,000 students internationally and domestic combined that may need this service. You're dealing with then furthermore almost 2,000 faculty, part-time, full-time, that may need this service throughout all times of the day between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. So it wouldn't be unwise to say target just the school for a little bit throughout the year, you would be a leading competitor in that faction. In fact, if anybody in the daycare industry is going to end up hearing or seeing this, but I really think that there is an opportunity for a lot of people, especially around childcare when it comes to Fanshawe College. There is an opportunity around every corner, and I just think that some people think it's I've had people straight up tell me that childcare at Fanshawe is unrealistic. I'm not an unrealistic person. I wouldn't lodge something if I thought it was unrealistic, and this may not really deem appropriate because the example that I'm about to use is a publicly funded place, but there's again in Peterborough, Ontario, there's a Catholic high school that has had since I've been like 9 years old and still has, and I'm 26 years old, and it still operates, but in this high school, a daycare for the students, by the students. And it's publicly funded. And I think that there's some point where people outside of the school may have access to the daycare, like if you're an extended family of a student or something. But regardless, if a measly high school has been able to maintain an on-campus high school daycare service, which was not even a tenth of the size of what we had back 20 years ago, and they've been able to maintain it for this long, again, that is something why could we not, whether it was publicly funded or not, why couldn't we figure something out? We are a very top-tier wealthy institution for a college, and I believe that if we tried to analyze different avenues seriously, we could actually make these things come to fruition, and it wouldn't have to take forever. It wouldn't have to be 5-10 years from now. If people were serious about this is something we could accomplish in a year or two. The legislations, the laws, everything is in place there. It's just literally the business opportunity and someone stepping up to the plate and be willing to work with that person. It's Fanshawe being willing to also, I'm not sure what their position is currently, as I'm still trying to figure out, but it's them also being open to the idea of having an outside daycare provider managed to their students and faculty. So it's, and that's really important for me, as I'd like to also work long-term with children.
Yeah, that's a great idea because, like you said, people who want to come can't come, and it would, I think, help the community as a whole, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you want to go about trying to, I know you kind of touched upon it a bit, but how do you want to kind of make those ideas become reality?
So I'm very good at networking and really seeing people eye to eye, meeting their needs, understanding people. I think that's what helped a lot when I was able to sit down, whether with groups or individual students during my campaign, and be able to connect with them one-on-one, really spend time with them, not just here's my flyer, vote for me, thank you. Like I would say out of the 915 votes I received, I would say out of all campaigning, I spent on average 3 to 4 minutes with each voter. Each of those people that cast a vote for me, on average, I would have spent 3 to 4 minutes talking to you. Some of you would have received 10, 15 minutes with me because you've just had so many things that you've wanted to say. But on average, out of 915, it was about 3-4 minutes a piece that I've spent with you. And that is a lot of time if you really consider it, especially when I'm just trying to campaign and get my point across. It shows the interest that you as students have, and you reciprocated that interest. In turn, I then reciprocated that interest and spoke on it for you and helped you understand why I was doing it. And you guys believe that it was possible. 915 of you believe that it is quite possible for us to have these services, that it is an appropriate thing to do. And I applaud you on that. And I will continue to try to uphold those promises and do such things. And I believe that's how I'm going to do it with the community. And even before I started campaigning, I already had this idea to try to enhance the student card if I could. And I didn't know if I was able to or not, but I was going to do the footwork, and I had already started. That's why I have Food Basics down the road as a possible contender for something like that. And I just have to get a little more information together and then forward more to their executive team. But as it stands, they would like to be a part of the meal plan, so that's a very good sign. And again, it's just stating logical facts, promoting health and wellness, and just trying to save money and be budget-wise, with your money. And it's college. We're all naturally really broke sometimes and have a struggle making it through. And when you have kids, it's not any easier. I'm a dad myself. And actually, me and the mom, we just don't live in the same city. She lives in Wasaga Beach, and I live here in London while I try to do my studies. And even that's difficult because I miss my son a lot, and it puts some strain on it. But I know personally what it's like to be a parent. So I know some of the challenges that can come with that, especially when you're attending school or looking at attending school. And so I want to appeal to the factors of that when it comes to daycare. I want to appeal to the factors of daycare providers that there's a business opportunity here for you, an opportunity for almost a guaranteed income. And the same thing for retailers, grocery retailers and diners and such around town, around the town of London and that are also surrounding campuses. I don't know what's out there in St. Thomas or other places that have a Fanshawe campus nearby. If you are a Subway, that's not on campus, or a Starbucks, or a Tim Hortons, or a No Frills, or a Freshco, or a Food Basics, if you are a grocery store, I want you to get interested. I want you to be concerned for your students locally, and I want you to make it known that you as a retailer want to be able to have students access you and your services as part of their student plan. And I think that even if the community was able to speak up on this, they would agree with something like that. And again, it's just logical. It's, and again, it's a model that's done elsewhere. And as long as it seems beneficial to everyone involved, I don't see us having a problem. So it's just making sure I can approach people logically with the facts and make them see what the opportunities are, and it just flies itself from there, kind of thing.
All right. Just have one more question for you.
Not a problem.
Just with the legalization of marijuana coming up, how do you think that'll change the campus, or maybe like challenge your job? I don't know if you guys have kind of discussed that, or if it came up.
It came up briefly, very suddenly. This is a topic that's causing me a bit of a headache as of lately, more considerably today, as everyone has gotten their FOL email and has seen the bylaws and stuff that are being preached in that email. As far as I was concerned, I know that there was a Leave the Pack Behind conference and all this other stuff, and they were planning on making the campus smoke free, but not until 2019 in some time, and that was my understanding. And the fact that we are now making the campus smoke free upon legalization is something that's only been made aware to me in like the last, I'm gonna say, week or two. Like, it's very sudden. And because I am a newly elected director, my hands are kind of tied between executing on my campaign promises or dealing with this immediate issue, so I have to find a way to juggle both. Now, I'll tell you right now, I'm a smoker. I casually smoke cigarettes when I'm not feeling like vaping, because I also vape, but I also am a medical licensed marijuana user, and I know that the current laws that they've projected will exempt medical users, provided that they have their documentation, but that's not entirely making the campus smoke free. And I know that they can't make the campus smoke free because like any other medicine, cannabis has qualities to it that may need to be applied throughout the day, and that involves smoking it, and unfortunately that's not something you can ethically remove. So they had to, for now, that is something that won't be touched, but it's still going to be a difficulty, because you're going to have students, despite you having a medical license or not, you're going to have constant students who see it, who smell it, who, whatever the case may be, they're going to harass other students for it. They're going to, the security is always going to constantly be called on someone who may already be documented for it and shouldn't be bothered. And I'll tell you now, I've never been bothered a day in my life for it, maybe actually twice, and both times I've shown security my medical licensing, and it's been groovy peaches from there, but with this new legislation, that's going to cause a lot of scrutiny, and a lot of people are going to keep the services running, so that way security is going to have their hands full actually figuring out if this person is allowed to smoke this substance or not. When it comes to recreational use and cigarettes, that's a tricky path, and I've had a lot of formal complaints. My phone has been blowing up all day today, and I'm not unhappy. I really appreciate it, because let's face it, smoking cigarettes is an addiction, just like drinking alcohol or whatever the case may be. Video games even is an addiction, right? And I mean, I can see, like, you know, in an institution like Fanshawe, how it is technically a private institution but a public college. You know, I can see some of the ways that they think it's like, I can see why they think it's right to enforce it the way they are. But as with anybody else, I can see some qualities behind it that may not work. So, you know, like students who are in, you know, computer programming or some heavy courses and it's all throughout the day, nicotine, unfortunately, believe it or not, whether you'd like to consider it or not, is a medicine to some. It's a medicine. And why is because we know that addiction is a mental health thing. We know that it's a treatable illness, actually, you know, and you can successfully quit, but you can't ethically force people to quit. And that is what you're doing. You're going to force students who, again, pay for their education, many of them smokers in some sort, whether they're recreational cannabis users, vape users, cigarette smokers, whatever the case may be. You're going to force these people to then have to walk sometimes, I'm going to estimate, 8 minutes through the crowded hallways to a disclosed place that's considered off campus, okay? You're going to have to use your substance for on average about 5 to 7 minutes, whether it is cannabis or cigarettes, and whether you're addicted to it or not, it is, you know, it's there nonetheless. And then you're going to have to take that next 8 minutes to come back. By then you've missed about a half hour. Nobody has, unless you have like an hour or two break in your day, which is rare between classes, you don't have the time to do that. It's much easier for you to be able to dart out to one of the many smoke sections and be able to do what you need to do and keep everything and make it to the next class, or make it back to class even, all within 5-10 minutes. And as well, I mean, campus smoke free, cool. But, you know, then you've got people who pay for parking spaces and have cars, and technically, like, despite it being private property, they're allowed to smoke in their vehicle if the windows are up, I guess, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, then you're going to have students resorting to that, and then they're going to get in legal debates with campus police in the campus itself about, well, it's my vehicle, blah, 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 and this and that. I think what we should have done is slow rolled it. We should have really paid attention to the needs of students here, and this is going to cause an uproar, and it's going to make me look like a bad guy bringing this to the board as a concern, but it is. There, you know, and there's staff too, teachers, workers. Like, it's not just the students. Like, custodial, sorry, they don't have the groundskeepers don't have time to, you know, nobody has that time. I think it would have been wise to say negate all the larger smoking sections, especially the nice courtyard now that they're putting solar panels into it, and keep like a more discrete section available, like 1 or 2 sections, actually smokable sections on campus. That would actually reduce the presence of cigarettes and cannabis use on campus, because there is only one or few limited areas in which you can smoke them, as opposed to almost every one area per building. Like, if we were able to use the one smoking area in the back of H and M building near the greenhouse, and say another one in the back of B and D and C building back there near the security, if those were left alone as the only designated smoking pits where students could smoke a cigarette or the cannabis, even for medical clients, they could smoke, but it'd have to be in this regulated area, so that way it's fair for everybody and equal for everybody. And that's what they should have done. Or they should have. You can't, and it's going to cause a lot of tension for the students, for the staff, the fact that they want to implement it. And I understand that they want to implement it this way, but as well, with it's all over the legalization of marijuana now that it's recreational. If that was the case, they could have just plain and simply said, listen, this is a private institution. We understand you have a cigarette nicotine addiction. We understand that addictions are a mental health. We're not going to stop you from smoking cigarettes entirely. We may limit as to where you can smoke them, but, you know, when it comes to recreational cannabis, That's recreational. You can do that outside of your work, outside of your studies, at home with your friends, whatever the case may be. Unless you're medically licensed, you really don't need to be smoking pot at school, to be honest. And if you live across the street from school and you're so inclined to do so, you can live close enough, and if you have a break, that you can go smoke your recreational weed there. I don't think that weed needs to be cigarettes need to be the issue here. They should have just said recreational weed is not to be permitted on premises during any time. And as for the Smoke-Free Act, we're going to start limiting smoking sections. I think they've done this all wrong, and it's going to be a headache. I wouldn't be surprised if I seen students start a petition for something like this, because in a way I can see it as unethical, and it doesn't. You can't smoke on the bus. A lot of students between home, college, and what their courses are and stuff, they don't have a lot of time, right? So I don't know if there's a lot that I can do, but it is something I'm going to keep an eye on and see what I can do about it. And I just urge students to send formal complaints to your directors, whether it's me or another director or a class rep, or even to your student union president, and just let them know your logical concerns on issues like this. Because without that voice, without those references for us to go on of actual student voices, we can't make some changes. And and I log all my responses, but at the same time, that's what we need from you guys. So that's really all I can do, unfortunately, for now. Medical uses are exempt. Cigarettes and recreational marijuana are not allowed. And I'm fine with the recreational marijuana part, but for cigarette use, I'm a little, especially myself, I'm a little agitated, because I've just it's okay now. I can I can medically smoke my pot on campus, but I can't smoke a cigarette, which I also may need. Sometimes nicotine gives me the patience marijuana can't, what I'm saying, or the attention span that marijuana can't. It works in differently for everyone sometimes, but generally has the same effects across the board. And then how is that fair that even then, despite us being medical, yes, we may need it, but we still have to go outside and obey certain rules of the law in order to use our medical. But why is that fair to anyone else who is now just a nicotine smoker who can't smoke a cigarette? It's not fair. It's not ethical. I personally don't agree with it, actually. And I think that if they wanted to go smoke-free campus, they should have done a more slow rollout of it. If they stick to it and just keep telling people, nope, this is the way it's going to be, maybe, after a long time it'll be accepted, maybe it won't, but people are gonna definitely feel some difficulties on their backs from this. This is definitely going to be an issue for many students and faculty, and it's something we're gonna feel the burn on for sure, all of us.
All right.